Hello friends, it's Sarah from Plan Sarah Plan, and today I'm going to set up the month of November in my Erin Condren Teacher Lesson Planner. I've made a kit for the month, and last month what I did, if you watched, was I came up with a Composer of the Month idea, which is not all that novel of an idea because I think a lot of teachers actually do this. But this month, the Composer of the Month will be Anton Rubinstein because he has a November birthday. And I can see right now we need to take the pages out. So hold tight because I enlarged the header on this kit to go really all the way to the edge. So I think if I did this right, we're going to cover all of the mid-century circles. Let's put it over here. And hopefully... Oh boy. Okay. Goodness gracious. All right, let's see if that worked. I believe it did. That covered everything, and I even covered a little bit of that hole there, so I need to punch that. But I like this better than last month. I got closer last month, but I still had some edge showing. So I wanted to see if I could make it go all the way to the edge of the mid-century circles pattern. I love that. I love how that looks. So we'll do the same thing here and hopefully put it right side up. And what I'm going to do with the weekly pages in this planner is just set up my lesson schedule. I keep this planner propped up and displayed in my piano teaching studio so that all of my students can see the Composer of the Month and kind of try to remember his or her name and any little facts that I share about that composer. And then I put some student birthdays and piano general events on it also. And it's just kind of fun. Last month was Franz Liszt because his birthday is on, I think, October 22nd. And on my laptop computer, I put this awesome picture of Liszt's music room / kind of sitting room office. And it's so cool because it looks pretty much like it did when he was alive. And they've preserved it and turned it into a museum. And as far as I can tell, from the black and white pictures of Liszt in his actual music room, sitting room, it's like the same curtains, everything's the same. Did I do that right? Hope so. Now I want to, for December, I want to stretch this sidebar over so it reaches the edge of the page. So it's really fun. I think the kids like that because it's a color picture and we could contrast it with the black and white pictures that you see. There are several online of Liszt, who would invite piano students and musicians over to his place when he was moving on in years, and he would do master classes and lessons and things like that. So it's just kind of a little fun way to stick a little music history into our time together. We only get half an hour a week together, each individual student, unless we do some group classes. But that's not the norm. It's usually the private lessons. And so I'm really just having fun decorating. And then I have a few students who have birthdays this month, and I'll put their pictures up here also after the video. And so now what I'm going to do is just talk to you while I put these little numbers on. This is going to be chatty, like my daily plan with me was earlier today. And I'm going to see if I can just do this without editing, just talking your head off. And I did find my reverse action tweezers after I filmed the daily plan with me. So they were just on the floor. They got lost in the shuffle when I was filming the Erin Condren holiday collection and ended up on the floor. So do any of you guys have a silhouette cameo that you cut stickers with or do crafting with? If so, I have a question for you. all of a sudden this morning, my Silhouette Cameo, it's a 3, and I've checked the firmware on it, it's up to date, stopped communicating via Bluetooth. I have to actually plug it in with the USB cable to my computer in order to communicate with it. So what's up with that? Why did the Bluetooth just stop all of a sudden? I kind of ruled out that it was a problem with the Cameo after I checked the firmware and turned off the machine and restarted it. And I closed out the Silhouette Studio software and restarted that. And now I didn't check if there's an update to the Silhouette Studio software. That could be a problem. But I did notice that my computer was due for a system update. So right now it's updating. And I'm always nervous doing that because sometimes when you get updates, I have a MacBook Air. Sometimes when you get updates, things get sluggish. And so I'm hoping that doesn't happen. It's not like a new MacBook Air. It's not old, but you know, the more updates you do on things, I think they have a tendency, at least phones do, to get a little bit slower. And that might just have to do with the storage space that it takes up to do a software update. So what are you doing, Sarah? You may be asking if this is your first time watching one of my teacher planner plan with me's. Well, I'm basically just decorating and getting organized and all festive for the current month. So I am a planner-holic, and I have a few planners that I decorate and plan in. And of course, you never have to decorate your planner, but I just think it's very relaxing and fun to do that. So what I'm doing is decorating my Erin Condren teacher lesson planner, the monthly spread mostly, but I'm also going to do a little bit of decorating on the weekly spreads. And I will display this, like I said, on a music stand in my teaching studio. And the children and I refer to this throughout the month. Kind of keeps us on track for how many lessons we have left until, like there's a festival on this day, or how many lessons we have left until fall break, which is there, or the Christmas and winter recital, which is in December. And it's just fun. I'm not actually doing lesson plans. I'm just, you know, like a classroom teacher would use this to maybe even get messy and scribble in lesson plans. That's not what I do. I'm a private piano teacher, so I have a different use for this than what might be typical. But you certainly can scribble in it and hash out your plans. And where am I? Okay. But what I do is just kind of put a color scheme each week and some stickers and the lesson schedule for the week. And believe it or not, I have some students who really look forward to seeing what I've stickered up in my planner. They just kind of think that's fun. And especially if it's their birthday month. And because private piano students don't really see each other very often unless there's a big studio event like a festival or a recital or a master class or something, or a group lesson, they have fun seeing who has a birthday this month because they do know each other. They just don't necessarily go to the same school for their regular school, and they don't see each other that often. Okay, turns out I'm filming with my phone. I got a phone call and it stopped filming before I told you a really cool story, and now I'm not even going to have time. Well, I guess I could tell you the story all over again, but it was a cool story about Anton Rubinstein and somebody else. So I am going to have to stop again in a minute, but let me just recap what I missed. What I'm doing right now is, since I finished decorating the monthly spread and I'm over here on a weekly spread, I put 1st through 6th up here in the subject headers instead of like subjects, because everything is piano. And all I do here, I don't do lesson plans unless I've got to put a reminder on a particular student's lesson time. I really just put the lesson schedule here. And if the student wins an award, during their lesson, I will make note of it here. But what I was saying, this isn't the story yet, but what I was saying, right when I realized that I wasn't being filmed, I was just talking to myself, is that in September, when I set this up, I could not, for the life of me, remember the order that my students came in because it was a brand new schedule. But now I'm getting better at it. We're 2 months in now. We're about to have lesson number 9. And so the fact that I miscut a bunch of these stickers is going to be a really excellent test of my memory to figure out if I really know when these students come, because these are all out of order. And so I had my settings wrong on my silhouette, and unfortunately these cut all the way through, but they'll still work. I just will have to work a little harder to get the backing off of the stickers. So anyway, I wanted to dig in and tell you the story about Anton Rubinstein and Joseph Hoffman, but my dad called. He's the reason, Dad, if you're watching this, and I know you're not, he's the reason that my camera stopped filming, because I forgot to put Do Not Disturb on in my phone. And what happened is that a phone call trumps filming. I don't think it ought to be that way, and maybe there's a setting that I can do besides Do Not Disturb where filming is prioritized over phone calls. I would certainly like it to be that way, unless it's an emergency phone call. So when my dad knocks on the door, he is bringing me Starbucks, which is awesome. I'm not at all mad at him for completely destroying this video. Dad, I'm not mad at you for calling me. It was sweet. He calls me and he wants to bring me Starbucks sometimes, and I love that because I love Starbucks. And guess what I ordered? It is the brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso. And if you haven't tried that, it's worth a shot. It's my new favorite. And it has, at least for the time being, supplanted the pumpkin spice latte, which was my previous favorite. And it's much lower calorie. And I think a medium has 120 calories in it, which is not bad for a nice drink that has just enough sweet in it with the brown sugar. So shall I start the very extremely interesting Anton Rubinstein, Joseph Hoffman story now and risk my dad arriving with the Starbucks or making another phone call? I don't think that will mess up the filming now because I've turned on Do Not Disturb. Let me just go back and tell this story again. All right, so the cool thing about Anton Rubinstein, besides the fact that he just has an interesting life himself, is that he was one of the once world famous pianist Joseph Hoffman's piano teachers. He was one of his piano teachers. That was a really long way to say that. And when Joseph Hoffman was a teenager, he studied with Anton Rubinstein. In fact, you can Google Joseph Hoffman, and the Polish way, he is Polish, to say that, I believe, is Józef Hoffman. And it's spelled Josef, Hof, one F, M-A-N-N. So if you Google Józef Hoffman, spelled that way, and Anton Rubinstein, you will very likely see a painting that someone did of Anton Rubinstein teaching Joseph Hoffman. And he's got his hand on his shoulder. And what I was saying before we were so unfortunately cut off is that a teacher wouldn't really do something like this nowadays because it's kind of a hands-off situation in case you've got to kind of touch a child's hand and shape their hand a certain way or help them with arm weight. You generally give them their personal space. You know, that's just, it's a different way of teaching now than it was in the old world. But the picture that you will find of the painting of Anton Rubinstein teaching Joseph Hoffman, you will see his hand on his shoulder because the way he taught is he would communicate certain things by like squeezing their shoulder, or I guess pushing down on their shoulder or tapping their shoulder when he wanted the student to do things like maybe play louder or slow down or play quieter or whatever. I'm not really sure what the system was, but he was a shoulder touching teacher. And that is the picture that you will find on the internet. And the reason Joseph Hoffman is important to me is that my family has passed down to me, at least at present, a piano that was signed in 1940 by Joseph Hoffman. And the piano is a Steinway. It's a nice little grand piano. Doesn't play great anymore. It's got some issues, but it is a rarity in that there's the signature inside next to the strings on what they call the harp, the metal part inside of a grand piano. There's a signature of Joseph Hoffman. And before we had internet or ways to easily research things, I had no clue who Joseph Hoffman was. It was just kind of family lore that a famous pianist had autographed inside this piano. And how my grandparents, who were not wealthy people in any way, ended up with a Steinway grand piano in their living room when my mom was about 10 years old. I'm still not clear on that, but they didn't buy it brand new. They bought it when it was 10 years old, so 10 years after Joseph Hoffman had signed it. And I've been told that it belonged originally to a doctor. And this was in West Virginia. And I did enough research to know that Joseph Hoffman came to West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia, the capital city, in 1940, the month of March, and did a concert. And he charged them an arm and a leg. And he was a substitute artist because their original choice for this concert series was Walter Giesking. And a war was going on at this time. And Walter Giesking could not get out of Europe. I believe that's the story. And Joseph Hoffman was living in America. He's a Polish-born musician and small-time composer, but wonderful pianist. And at one time, Rachmaninoff said he was the absolute best in the world. And Rachmaninoff, I bet you have heard of Rachmaninoff, probably not Joseph Hoffman, but Rachmaninoff dedicated his third piano concerto. If you're a musician, you know what I'm talking about. A monster piece that I've never played, but it's a fun one to listen to. Dedicated it to Joseph Hoffman, who could never play it because Joseph Hoffman was a very small in stature man, and he could not reach the big span of chords that were written into this third piano concerto. So if you find an old copy of the sheet music of the Rachmaninoff third piano concerto, sometimes nicknamed the Rach 3 or the Rock 3, you'll see that it was dedicated to Joseph Hoffman. And Joseph Hoffman was another European, well, he was Russian-born, composer, really famous as a composer. Maybe not as much as a concert pianist, but he was a fine, fine concert pianist. But he had also, I think it really tore him apart because he loved his homeland of Russia, but he moved to the United States also. A lot of people did. Things were just rough in those days in different parts of the world. And for artists, sometimes it was especially rough because if they lived in a place where the government kind of told them what they were and were not permitted to compose, then, they were just kind of like, strangled in a way, choked in a way. So Rachmaninoff and Joseph Hoffman knew each other, both being Americans, since the United States was their adopted country. And so anyway, that's interesting. So Joseph Hoffman was so small that his hands could not reach the chords, you know, the span that he needed to be able to play Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto. In fact, I've heard that his hands were so small and he was so famous that Steinway made a custom Joseph Hoffman piano where the keys were just a hair, like maybe 1/8 of an inch more slender than the standard size piano key. Now, if that were me, I think that would mess me up a little bit because I'm used to the size of the piano, but I'm thinking I also have a hard time with reaching more than I can reach a ninth. An octave is 8 notes if you're not a musician. A ninth is one more than that, and it's a stretch for me to reach a ninth. But how great would it be when you're playing like big romantic era piano pieces to be able to reach a 10th with ease? And I think if I had one of those Joseph Hoffman custom miniaturized pianos, I'd be able to do it. Maybe I could play the Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto if only I had a smaller piano. I think that would be great. And you know what? I've had two students through the years who have a really big hand span. One was a young lady who, she was not like especially tall or anything, but she had nice long fingers, perfect for playing piano. And she was such a naturally musical person. And she used to rub it in constantly that she could play a 10th just like that. Just reach in, play a 10th. She didn't even have to go and reach it. She could just play a 10th. And I was so envious of that. And now I have a student who's getting there, who is going to be the same way. This student is not a senior in high school yet, so if they stick with piano, by the time they're a senior, they may be able to reach a 10th just as easily as that young lady could. All right, so I don't know if I've cut out all the info about what I'm doing and if there is another week here, or if I skipped a week. Here we go, great. But all I'm doing, since I'm a piano teacher, is marking the schedule, the piano lesson schedule. And what should we use? Let's just get the darker colors out of the way and save these brighter ones for not fall. Okay, so all I'm doing is marking my 1st through 6th student of the day, and I do believe it got cut off when I explained why I do that, instead of putting the time slot. Like last year, I used to put 3:30 here, then 4, 4:35, 5:36, because every day's lessons began at 3:30. It was the same every day. This year, Wednesday and Thursday start at 4. Tuesday and Friday start at 3:30. So that time slot idea does not work this year. So I'm just labeling the slots 1st through 6th and keeping track of who comes when. And although I don't put lesson plans in this area, I will occasionally put a reminder if I need to remember to give a student a certain book, or a particular student has a specific deadline that's just for them on their lesson day. And if they win an award, I will sometimes put the award there. I got all these extras from the monthly page just sitting in my lap. I can just set that aside. So if they, for example, complete a level of a book and I want to kind of note that on their record, I will write it here. But by and large, this space is just to help me keep track of what lesson number we're on, because the lesson number will go up here, and which student comes when. That's what I mainly use this for. The lesson notes themselves go into a computer system. I use something that used to be called Music Teacher's Helper. Now it appears, and I missed the memo because I just woke up one day and it was switched. Either they just changed their name, or they were bought by another company, or they merged with another company, because now it's called Duet Partner, which is clever. It's the exact same software though. So anyway, every day I get an email that tells me who's coming and it sends me the notes from last week's lessons. It's super. And every day at the end of lessons, I type in some brief lesson notes going over what we did during the lesson, and that goes out in an email that the parent receives. So if the parent is so inclined, which I always hope they are, they will go over that with their child when the child gets home, and kind of, especially with a younger child, make sure they're practicing their actual assignment instead of just heart and soul or whatever they learned last year. You know, I want them to be working on the new stuff, which requires some brain work and a little bit of self-discipline. So it's a ongoing process to develop that discipline. So anyway, I think that's going to do it. Is that the last week in November? Yes. Okay, so the only thing left now is for me to label lesson 9, 10, 11, and 12 is not going to show up here. It will be in my December spread, but you know what? I could have saved myself some time, couldn't I? We have fall break here on lesson 12. So that one I just did, I could just put a great big fall break across that. I didn't even have to do that. This is what happens when I talk. You guys, it happened again. My dad called again. Not mad at him, but tell me why my camera stopped filming. I had Do Not Disturb turned on. So explain that to me. But anyway, all I have left now is to write the lesson number and add this to the top of what they call the sidebar. So I like to write nice and slowly so that it's somewhat nice and neat. And I also figured out, don't know if this got cut out, but I also figured out that that last week of November, I didn't even need to put the students in there because we have fall break. That is so me. Plan first, figure it out. I was wrong later. So we're going to go just to lesson 11. And I should do one that just says fall break. That would be cool. It's really Thanksgiving break, but I just call it fall break. And the kids are out of school for, I think, half a day on Wednesday, and then they're out of school on Thursday and Friday, Thanksgiving week. So let's go ahead and add this in. I'm not going to edit this plan with me very much, so it's going to be long, just like my daily was. And we're just going to see what the reception is to this sort of a thing. You pretty much just need to take a day off of work to be able to watch one of these videos, because it's like talk, 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 right? Okay, so here is this week, and this is lesson number 9. And not exactly the color scheme, but fine. I'm not as picky on color schemes with my teacher planner as I am with my personal planner. I just like it to be kind of colorful and fun in case the kids look at it. Lesson 11, and then lesson 12 is not going to be till December, so this was all pointless. I just need to write canceled, no, not canceled, but fall break across here, or LOL. All right, so we're all done. November is set up. I will add the students' November birthdays to this after the video just to protect their privacy, but that's also what I do here. And honestly, maybe that's what they love the most about it, is seeing whose birthday is this month. So thank you for joining me. If you've never seen one of these before, here's what I did last month, and basically just the same thing, except we had group lessons that week. And I did put some little stickers, so maybe I'll find some deco stickers to add to the November spread, but I may just leave it like that. And then September, what did we do? Oh, this was when I had the old size, like it wasn't the old size, but last year's teacher lesson planner did not have all of this decoration so stretched out to the edge of the page. So this would have fit last year's teacher lesson planner. So lesson learned after I did that. But like I said, I'm not super picky in my teacher lesson planner about all that stuff. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.